we stopped with Abraham dying, and then all the sons, they all come back and help bury him. Or Isaac and Ishmael both do. And that's basically all of that chapter. Isaac is, Abraham is 175 years old when he dies, which is older than anybody today's time lives. In chapter 26, it starts talking about Isaac. Of course, Isaac is Abraham's son of promise, and of course, they studied something last week where Isaac gets his wife, Rebekah, from the servant goes back to their home, Abraham's home country, and brings a wife back for him. And then Isaac pulls one of the same tricks that his dad used. When he goes into a foreign country, he tells his wife to tell everybody that she's my sister. Now, Abraham really could tell everybody that Sarah was his sister, but now Isaac and Rebekah, they are kinfolks, but they're not brother and sister. But God tells you, the famine comes along, and God tells him, don't go down to Egypt, stay here. And of course, him and Abimelech, the king, they kind of make a agreement. You just stay away. You got too much stuff. You stay away. We can't all live here. But the people kept covering up the wells. Of course, the well was a very important thing to water their animals and water themselves with. And they dig a new well and they fill it back in again. But they finally made an agreement, and they have their own wells. Of course, Rebekah has two sons, twins, Jacob and Esau. What is the difference in the two? Physically. Huh? Somebody said the right answer, but they were kind of whispering back there, I think, wasn't you, Gina?
One was hairy and one was not.
One was fair and smooth skin, and the other one, he was fair, had red hair, and he was really hairy, it says.
One was a hunter and one was I think he stayed in a tent.
Yeah, one was a hunter, and the other, he may have stayed in the tent.
He studied.
He's a studier, okay. Which one was the oldest?
Esau.
Esau. Now the custom was the oldest son would get the blessing, and they would also get the biggest majority of the inheritance. And what causes these two things to change?
Esau was hungry.
Huh?
He was hungry, thought he was going to die.
Esau come in, I'm just starving to death. You ever come in and tell us that, boy, I'm just starving to death? Hungry as a wolf is one of my favorite things. I'm hungry as a wolf. Well, that's why Esau was. He just wasn't going to be able to wait. Well, I got some. Jacob had some beans cooking. Well, they're ready to eat. Some of your different things, we'll call them by different names. Some of them said they were lentil beans. Janice, what is your?
What verse is that?
Well, I hadn't got over that far yet. Verse 30. Yeah, call them lentils, yeah.
The next thing is red lentils that were very common at that time.
Okay. Did you not call it pottage, Janice?
Mine calls it red stuff.
Red stuff?
You can send that red stuff.
Red stew? Yours says pottage? Okay. Anyway, it's something red. red bean soup or something, but anyway, it was, yeah, there you go. That's what I've been waiting on you to say pottage for. You finally found it. Yeah.
The lentil is a pea, it's like a small pea size.
Yeah, it's a little bitty bean or
Little
pea.
beans.
Little rascal, yeah.
Lentil.
Well, down in 34 mine does say, in 30 it does say red stuff, but then down in 34 mine says lentil.
Okay. But yours like,
Lentils.
Cheryl, you said red stuff in one of them, and then the other one, and then the other one it says lentils. Okay.
Mine says pottage of lentils.
Huh?
Down below in 34, it says bread and pottage of lentils.
Pottage of lentils. Okay. Anyway, for a few beans, because he just thought he was going to starve to death, said, "Well, I'll just give you my birthright. I'll sell it to you." That's kind of hasty, isn't it?
Maybe he wasn't too bright.
Well, he was quite impulsive, evidently, because maybe he thought he just saying something to be saying something, and old Dad's gonna give me all the stuff anyway. So
Well, he didn't think too highly of it to give it away for that.
do I now?
He didn't think too highly of the birthright to give it
No,
away.
if he was that flippant of it about the birthright, he didn't think too much of it anyway.
Not at that time, anyway.
But of course, he might have thought, well, things have changed. He wasn't thinking at all, was he?
No.
Yeah, but he should have known what it meant. From Jacob saying, "Give me your birthright."
Yes.
He knew what the birthright was.
Yeah, he would have, by him asking about the birthright, he would have known what was involved, yes. But like Cheryl said, he must not thought too much of, remember Isaac got so much, he's like Abraham, he got so much stuff, which is basically animals and what have you, that he can't, him and Abimelech, they can't all live in the same land, just like Abraham and Lot couldn't live on the same land because there's just too many animals. And they're just wandering around looking for something for the animals to eat. Open range, if you will. We don't have too much open range in this country anymore, but at one time there was. And I read an article today about a guy that talked about some places in Nebraska, they still called it open range. The roads just went across fields and ranches, and the only marker was it blew an open range, but it didn't have fences on the highway because the only thing you went from one ranch to the other when you crossed another cattle guard, but it was all on a state highway.
Beaver Mountain Road used to be that way, I've been over it.
Well, it's been a long time since I've been that way, but it was. Once you get so far, you're on one guy's land, and they're all way out there.
Still that way.
Is it still that way? It's been a long time since I've been that way.
It is long,
Huh?
it is up long and get it north of there.
This,
Across.
this guy here was writing about going to see somebody in the Sand Hills of Nebraska, and said that's on time you could tell it is on a regular road, but you'd hit a cattle guard, you knew you'd change property owners. That's basically all you knew, but you run across a cattle guard. But you had to watch for cattle all the time because there were no fences on the roads. The baby's fixed to come unwound here in a minute. Yeah. She said, well, that guy'd hush, we could go home, huh? But anyway, Jacob gets the blessing by trickery. He tricks Esau out of the birthright, but evidently Isaac doesn't know anything about this, and so Isaac gets old, he can't see, and so I better give the blessing, and before I get so old I can't talk. I'm gonna mess around. I'm gonna die. And so he tells Esau, said, I really like the stew you make. And it's not just bean soup. It's out of some wild game. You go get it and bring it here and say, I'll give you a blessing. Well, Rebecca hears about it, and it's all, Rebecca does all of the wheeling and dealing as far as the trickery is concerned. And she tells Jacob to go get a couple of goats, and I'll cook the meat, and you go get Esau's blessing. Well, now he'll recognize me, because as we talked about a while ago, Esau he's a hairy dude, and I'm not. And even though he can't see, he'll figure us out. Well, but they take his clothes, Esau's clothes, and put on him. And then take the skins from the little goats and put it over his hands and around his neck where it'd be real hairy. What does Isaac say to Jacob? He said, it's the hands of smell. You look like him and you feel like him and all this and smell like him, but the voice is Jacob's voice. But anyway, he goes in and gives him a better blessing than he gives to Esau. Because Esau said, well, what about it for me? He gives him a blessing, but it's not near as beneficial. And then what does Esau accuse Jacob of doing? Stealing his birthright. Did he really steal it? No, he bought it with a pot of beans.
But it was God's will.
Yes, this is God. God was doing all that. God had chosen Jacob to be the one for the lineage for his people. Yes.
Do you not think there's a difference between the blessing and the birthright?
Come at me again on that one now.
It seems to me like, Jacob wanted the birthright, but he also wanted the blessing.
Yes, he did.
So to me, there's a difference somehow.
Well, the fact is that he traded for the birthright, but Isaac was not privy to all this. Isaac didn't know all this that went on, evidently, because he was going to go get and give everything to Esau, which was what he thought he was supposed to do. But Rebecca didn't. She was working for God, evidently, because that's, like I say, it's all God's planned it that Jacob would get the blessing. It's his lineage that'll be Christ would come through, and not Esau's. But
They had to trick him to get it.
huh?
They had to trick.
They had to trick Isaac to get it done. Yeah, but from what we read, Isaac didn't know about any of this buying it for a pot of beans and he definitely didn't know about the trickery that they pulled on him by putting the skins on and putting the clothes of Esau on Jacob.
His mother knew.
But his mother knew, yes.
Mother knew, and his mother set the whole deal up.
Yeah, she set the whole deal up. Yeah, his mother knew. Leland, you got anything to contribute to any of this?
Well, you go all the way back to when she is carrying the two boys,
Yes,
and they're already struggling.
yes.
And when Esau's born, Jacob's got a hold of his heel, evidently trying to be the firstborn.
Okay.
Now, Esau did trade his birthright to Jacob, but Esau never gave it to him. Jacob and his mother defrauded Isaac.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, he did sell it flippantly, yeah, but kind of carelessly, maybe a better word, but Isaac didn't know anything about all this.
He did give it to him though, because he said, I'm about to die, so what's the birthright gonna do me?
Yeah,
And he said, swear to me. So he swore to him.
yeah,
He
yeah.
sold his birthright to Jacob, it says, in verse 33.
But he
chapter
didn't
35.
give it to him.
He sold
He
it.
hadn't got it at that point.
No, but he.
Jacob and his mother's the deceivers.
Oh yeah, you're right about that part.
But
The
he sold
brother
it.
is just an idiot.
Yeah, yeah. Because like I say, I think when he said he sold it, I don't think he thought that just something to satisfy him, so I get something to eat, but I think he was pretty.
Probably knew that Isaac had to give it.
Yeah. Dad's gonna give me all this stuff anyway, so
It really wasn't his to give away.
yeah, it really wasn't his to give away. It was Isaac's to determine which one was but it was the custom for the oldest one to get the most stuff.
So, my understanding, going back to the question about birthright versus, blessing, correct me if I'm wrong on my thinking, I've always assumed that the blessing in this was kind of, you're in the patriarchal age, so instead of having priests and things like that, you're passing
Yeah.
down the torch of the blessing.
Yes.
Because he says a prayer later on, or,
Mm.
with him, and take him by the hand, that kind of stuff, and everything. Do you think that that's kind of what the blessing was, or,
Well, yeah, it does seem that the blessing had something to do with the way that the rest of their life went to, because, like I say, they are patriarchs here. Isaac is a patriarch, but God had decided already that because it said the older would serve the younger, and Jacob was going to be the one he was going to, and so Isaac wasn't going to give in. He wasn't going to give Jacob it just automatically, because he was still determined to do it by the way that it was their custom. In fact, later on under the Mosaic law, the oldest son got a double portion. If there's a dozen kids, it would just like to be 13 because he got 2 shares. And then the rest of them got the smaller share. But the blessing that they gave did carry on. It was a kind of a premonition, if you will, a God-inspired thing, it seems, to the patriarchs. But Isaac planned on giving it to Esau. He thought he gave it to Esau. But through the trickery, that he gave it to Jacob. And then when Esau came in, I've done give the best one away, I'm not going to take it back,
Well, wouldn't the birthright be a separate thing? Like, the birthright would be more of his belongings.
Yeah, but you're right. The birthright was the belongings, but the patriarch usually gave the best blessing to the one who had the birthright. Yeah, you got both. If you're the oldest son, you got both. You got the blessing and the birthright.
So it's two different.
But they are two different things. But they are tied together, and they tricked. Even though Esau sold his birthright, Isaac didn't know about it, and they tricked him out of it. Tricked him into giving it to Jacob instead of Esau.
And keep in mind, Isaac was not the firstborn.
No, Isaac. Well, now he was the firstborn of promise. He was the first one born of promise. Remember, God says he's your only son. God didn't recognize the other one.
And what did he give his older son?
He gave Isaac basically everything, and he gave gifts to the other ones.
And I don't know if that included Esau.
He
When
gave,
I read it, it was Isaac got everything, and his younger brothers got gifts. Esau's long gone.
You mean Ishmael?
Ishmael, I'm sorry.
Oh yeah, there's so many names, and they're not Jim and John. They're
Didn't Ishmael come back?
yeah. Ishmael came back to help bury him.
Helped bury him.
Yeah. But,
He got the lands all.
yeah, he got lands, that, of course,
God took care of it.
yeah, Abraham didn't own it. Yeah, Abraham didn't own any land, basically.
Abraham sent him and his mother away.
Yeah, what did he send him away with? A loaf of bread and a bag of water. But Isaac was the one of promise, and that's the one that God recognized as being his oldest son. So Isaac got it all. In fact, when they send the servant back to Abraham's home country to find Isaac a wife, he says, your brother Abraham, he got rich. He got all kinds of stuff. He got all kinds of servants, maids, men, you name it, camels. He got all kinds of stuff. But he has become rich. And yet, as we talked about last week, he didn't own anything except for as far as land was concerned, except for what? Huh?
Burial plot.
The burial plot. The land was in that burial plot. That's the only land he owned.
Basically, all of this is pointing to the fact that this entire situation is pointing to the fact that the promise that God gave to Abraham is continuing to be fulfilled through this seed line.
Yes.
And the birthright was significant from the standpoint of inheritance and who would be considered the heir of you know, the firstborn. So
Yeah.
But as the blessing was given, that was for the purpose of identifying the one through whom the promise would be fulfilled going forward.
Yeah.
Through the 12 tribes of Israel, through the tribe of Judah, through continuing on through there, through Ruth, through David, and so we're kind of examining the details of what is taking place more from the standpoint of a here and now, rather than looking at it from an eternal point of view and seeing God's plan
It was, yeah.
being brought about.
Yeah, it was God's plan.
Whatever, it
Yeah.
was still, God is able to bring about good things from bad things.
Abraham and Sarah, they had a plan. I'm not having any kids, so we'll get Hagar to have a kid for us. That wasn't God's plan. So and here Isaac, he's planning on giving his blessing and all his stuff to Esau because he's the oldest one. That wasn't God's plan. So God helped arrange it to where Jacob got, because that was God's plan, was that through Jacob, the 12 tribes would be started. But you're right. God is working through all these people. Sometimes they don't really realize, but God's worked through all this stuff for it to make it fit God's plan. But sometimes it was their plan. They thought it was their plan,
Well, there's lots of that lineage that doesn't go with the oldest son. So, not only Jacob being the younger,
Yeah.
but Joseph's not the oldest.
That's right.
Solomon's not the oldest. As you go all the way through,
Yeah.
it works out however God intended it to work out. Thank you.
I wouldn't say anything, I don't think. But anyway. But like I say, you're right. It all works out to how God wants it to work out. And you see, I don't know. We've just been jumping around. I'm not even sure what chapter we might even be on.
Another point from this too, talk about Jacob and Esau. The reason that the birthright was given from Esau to Jacob basically boils down to instant gratification.
Yes.
He wasn't concerned about the long-term effect of, you know, he's sitting there, you know, with an empty belly, and as far as he's concerned at that particular moment, a birthright wasn't doing him any good.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that points us back, you know, as far as a life lesson for us is that we have to consider the fact that instant gratification is not the way to go, that God's plan is the way to go.
Sometimes a little patience goes a long ways, you know. And let's wait and see what happens. Let's don't just try to get something right now.
You know, kind of all those ones that were not the firstborn, kind of goes to show that God's not a real big fan on tradition.
Do what now?
God's not real big on tradition.
Well, that's true. But now, under the law of Moses, though, they did. The oldest son got, not necessarily the oldest daughter, but there's any sons, the oldest son got a double portion. But the thing about it was he had to take care, had to be sure and take care of everybody else. That was the reason he got the double portion, because once the father died, then it became his responsibility to be sure everybody else got took care of.
But what does Jacob do when Esau dies?
Do what now?
What does Jacob do when his father dies?
He runs off and leaves.
Isaac, not Esau.
Yeah,
I got all the names twisted.
he leaves. He runs and hides.
Mama sends him.
Mama sends him away.
Mama sends him away. So his plan's not working out too good in the short run.
No, and he gets up and deals with a crooked uncle or whatever, and ends up working 14 years just to get one woman. Would you work 14 years to get Sally?
I'm still working.
You're still working? That's a pretty good answer right there. Huh? Finance charges, the interest is just eating it up right there. Next week we'll be singing night, I think. We'll start